Hello, my name is Christine Blythe and I run a vintage shop called Prima Treasures on Etsy. Today I wanted to talk about a company called Austin Sculpture. They were also known as Austin Productions earlier in their life cycle. So the company was started in the early 1950s and they originally began making sculptures that were based off famous works. So you'd have sculptures like The Thinker or David by Michelangelo. They would make home-sized reproductions of that type of thing. Eventually, I want to say in the early 80s or thereabout, they started branching out into original works. And what you see on the table is an example of that type of thing. So what I have here are 3 different sculptures. These 2 on the right were made by one of their more popular artists, and her name was Alice Heath. And she tended to do sculptures that were very much like this, where you see here we have mothers with their babies, and it's kind of a romanticized look at them. And she also did similar ones with small children. She did sculptures with just a woman alone, and those tended to have kind of a Victorian look to them. They had long flowing dresses, they had, long wavy hair. So she definitely had kind of a romantic influence to a lot of her work. And then on the far left, you can see over here, that sculpture is very dramatic, and it's a woman, and she's holding a microphone in her hand, and she's standing on a stage. And that was done by another one of their very popular artists, whose name was Alexander Danell. And his sculptures tend to be Art Deco influenced, or modernist, depending on, how you want to call that. But you can see she definitely has kind of a deco vibe to her, and most of his sculptures had that look. A lot of the artists who did work for Austin Sculptures did people and animals, different, subjects like that. Not a lot of like buildings and that kind of thing. There's usually either a person or animals in action in some way. They also had an artist known as Dee Crowley who focused primarily on children. So she had like cutesy sculptures of children doing different things, petting animals, that kind of stuff. And then another one of their very popular artists was named Kutron, and his sculptures are quite distinctive. I don't happen to have any at the moment, but they're usually just depicting hands doing things, like smoking a cigar or holding hands, like a parent and a child holding hands, that kind of thing. So if you see a sculpture that's just one hand or 2 hands in action, that's probably his work. And luckily with Austin, almost every sculpture they put out has the artist's name on it and has their name on it. So you'll usually see, let me show here on the back of this one right here, it says Heath here. So you know that she's the designer for this particular piece. And then right here's a stamp for Austin Sculpture. And this one has the tag with it, but usually you don't see the tag. I included it here because we have the tag on that one. So it's fairly easy to identify an Austin sculpture if you see it at an estate sale or a thrift shop or something like that. And the thing I like about Austin is, one, they did all of their sculptures in plaster. So none of these are made of resin. They're all made of actual plaster. And I also like the fact that many of their sculptures, you can't really tell on this one, but both of these you can see have a nice metallic finish to them. So they're pretty eye-catching. And that's a really cool feature of the Austin sculptures. And this is actually fairly small for them. Most of their sculptures are larger and tend to be, a nice dramatic size that would make a good statement piece in whatever room you want to put them in. So they're really cool from that sense too, that you're not getting some little tiny figurine. You're getting something big and showy when you buy an Austin sculpture. So I hope this gives you a good idea of the types of things that they put out on the marketplace, and I appreciate you watching.